At exactly 2:17 p.m., Emily Carter realized the man she was supposed to marry had disappeared. Not 5 minutes late. Not stuck in traffic. Not nervous. Gone. She stood behind the closed wooden doors of St. Matthew's Chapel, dressed in a white wedding gown that had taken 6 months to choose. Her bouquet of white roses trembled in her hands. Beyond those doors, nearly 150 people were waiting. Her family. Daniel's family. Friends from college. Co-workers. Neighbors. Everyone had come to watch Emily Carter marry the man she had loved for almost 3 years. The wedding music had already begun. The guests were seated. The photographer was ready. Her father was standing beside her. But the groom wasn't at the altar. Emily looked at her father. "Dad?" Robert Carter immediately knew what she was going to ask. "I'm still trying to find him." Emily stared at him. "Still?" Robert hesitated. That single hesitation terrified her. "What does that mean?" "He isn't answering his phone." Emily's smile disappeared. "How long?" Robert looked down at his watch. "Almost an hour." Emily's heart seemed to stop. "An hour?" Her maid of honor, Sarah Mitchell, stepped closer. "Emily?" Emily looked at her. "Where is Daniel?" Sarah's eyes were red. "I don't know." "You were with him this morning." "I know." "You helped him get dressed." "Yes." "Then how don't you know where he is?" Sarah looked toward the floor. Emily felt something cold move through her chest. "Sarah." "I'm sorry." "For what?" Sarah didn't answer. Emily looked at her father. "Dad, tell me what's happening." Robert stepped closer. "Your uncle checked the parking lot. Daniel's car is still here." Emily frowned. "What?" "His car is here." "Then where did he go?" "We don't know." Emily looked around the hallway. "His parents." Robert's jaw tightened. "His mother says she hasn't seen him since this morning." "His brother?" "Gone." Emily's eyes widened. "Gone where?" "We don't know." The silence that followed was unbearable. Emily looked at the chapel doors. She could hear whispers from the other side. People were beginning to notice. Her stomach twisted. "This is a joke, right?" No one answered. "Daniel wouldn't do this." Robert put a hand on her shoulder. "No one is saying he would." "But he wouldn't." "I know. He loves me." "I know." "He promised me." Robert's eyes filled with sadness. "I know, sweetheart." Emily's lips trembled. "Then find him." "We will." "No." She shook her head. "Not we." She looked directly at her father. "You find him." Robert nodded. "I will." He turned and walked away. Emily watched him disappear down the hallway. Sarah stayed beside her. For several seconds, neither woman spoke. Then Sarah whispered, "There might be something you should know." Emily turned. "What?" Sarah looked terrified. "Daniel was acting strange this morning." Emily's heart sank. "What kind of strange?" "He barely spoke." "That's not unusual." "He was nervous." "No." Sarah shook her head. "This was different." "How?" He kept checking his phone. "Maybe work." He wasn't checking work messages. What was he checking? Sarah hesitated. Messages from his father. Emily's expression changed. "Richard?" Sarah nodded. Emily had never liked Daniel's father. Richard Brooks was wealthy, powerful, and intimidating. He had always treated Emily like someone who didn't belong in his family's world. But Daniel had always defended her. At least until today. What did Richard say? "I don't know." "You saw the messages." "I only saw Daniel's face." "What did it look like?" Sarah swallowed. "Scared." Emily's fingers tightened around her bouquet. "Scared of what?" "I don't know." Before Emily could ask anything else, Melissa, the wedding coordinator, rushed toward them. Her face was pale. "Emily?" "What?" Melissa held something in her hand. "We found this in the groom's room." Emily stared at the folded paper. "What is it?" Melissa didn't answer. Emily slowly reached for it. Her fingers shook as she unfolded it. There were only a few words. "Emily, I'm sorry. I can't do this. You deserve someone better than me." That was it. No explanation. No goodbye. No reason. Emily read it again. Then again. Her lips parted. "No." Sarah covered her mouth. Emily stared at the handwriting. She knew it. It was Daniel's. There was no mistake. He left me. Sarah stepped forward. Emily? He actually left me. I'm so sorry. Emily looked toward the doors. 150 people were waiting. Her wedding guests, her family, people who had come to celebrate her happiest day. And now they were about to watch her humiliation. Emily suddenly laughed. It was a small, broken laugh. Do you know what's funny? Sarah shook her head. I spent months worrying about whether the flowers would match the tablecloth. She looked at her dress. I worried about the cake. She looked at her bouquet. I worried about whether I would trip walking down the aisle. Her voice cracked. But I never once worried that the man waiting at the end of it wouldn't be there. Sarah hugged her. Emily didn't move. She simply stood there, crying. 2:31 p.m. The music stopped. The chapel became painfully quiet. Emily could hear people whispering. What happened? Where's the groom? Is everything okay? Maybe there was an emergency. Then someone near the front said, I think he left. The whisper traveled through the church. Within seconds, everyone knew. Emily looked at her father. Robert had returned. His expression told her he hadn't found Daniel. Emily wiped her tears. I can't stay back here. Robert shook his head. You don't have to go out. Yes, I do. No. I need to tell them. Tell them what? Emily looked at the note. That my fiancé left me. Robert's face tightened. You don't owe anyone an explanation. They're my family. They're here for you. Then I need to face them. Robert took her hand. You don't have to be strong today. Emily looked at him. I don't know how to be anything else. They walked toward the chapel doors. When the doors opened, every conversation stopped. 50 faces turned toward Emily. She felt every eye on her. Some people looked shocked. Some looked confused. Some looked heartbroken for her. Emily walked slowly down the aisle. Her father stayed beside her. She reached the altar, the place where Daniel should have been standing. There was an empty space that somehow felt louder than all the people in the room. Emily stared at it. Then she turned toward the guests. I'm sorry. Her voice echoed through the chapel. We won't be having a wedding today. Someone began crying. Emily continued. Daniel is gone. A murmur spread through the room. I don't know why. She looked down. He left me a note. Her voice cracked. It says he can't do this. Robert stepped forward. That is all we know. Then suddenly, the chapel doors at the back opened. Everyone turned. A man stood there. Emily had never seen him before. He was tall, early 30s, dark blue suit. Rainwater covered his shoulders. His hair was slightly disheveled. He looked exhausted, but his eyes were focused. He slowly walked down the center aisle. Everyone stared. Robert stepped in front of Emily. Can I help you? The stranger stopped. My name is Nathan Reed. Robert frowned. Do you know Daniel? Yes. Emily stepped around her father. How? Nathan looked at her. His expression softened. I was supposed to meet him here. Emily's heart jumped. Where is he? Nathan didn't answer. Where is Daniel? Nathan looked down, then back at her. He couldn't come. Emily felt her stomach drop. What does that mean? Nathan reached into his jacket. Robert immediately moved between them. What are you doing? Nathan slowly pulled out a black envelope. I have something for Emily. Robert took it. But Nathan shook his head. No. He looked directly at Emily. Daniel told me to give it to her. Emily stepped forward. Give it to me. Her father hesitated. Emily took the envelope. She looked at Nathan. Who are you? Nathan's eyes remained on hers. Someone who knows why Daniel left. Emily's breath caught. You know? Yes. Then tell me. Nathan looked around the chapel. Everyone was watching. He seemed uncomfortable. But then he said something that made every person in the room go silent. Your fiancé didn't leave because he stopped loving you. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Then why? Nathan took a slow breath. Because someone threatened him. Emily froze. Who? Nathan looked toward the empty altar. Then he looked at Emily. His father? A gasp came from the crowd. Emily shook her head. No. Nathan's voice remained calm. Richard Brooks threatened Daniel. What did he threaten him with? Nathan hesitated. Then he said, Your family. Emily stared. What does that mean? Your father's company. Robert stepped forward. What do you know about my company? Nathan looked at him. More than you think. Emily looked between them. What is going on? Nathan's eyes returned to hers. Your wedding wasn't supposed to end like this. Then how was it supposed to end? Nathan's expression became serious. Daniel was supposed to expose his father. Emily felt the world tilt beneath her. Expose him for what? Nathan didn't answer. Instead, he looked toward the doors. Then he said quietly, We need to leave. Why? Because if Richard knows I'm here... He stopped. Emily's heart pounded. What? Nathan looked directly into her eyes. He'll know Daniel failed. And then, for the first time that afternoon, Emily realized something terrifying. Daniel hadn't simply disappeared. He had been running, and whatever he was running from might now be coming for her. Emily stared at Nathan. The chapel was still filled with people, but somehow she could no longer hear them. All she could hear was one sentence repeating inside her head. He'll know Daniel failed. Her fingers tightened around the black envelope. What did Daniel fail to do? Nathan looked toward the chapel doors. Not here. Emily shook her head. No. Nathan looked at her. What? I've spent the last 3 hours being lied to. Emily, Daniel left me a note. Her voice cracked. His family disappeared. His car is still outside. You walk into my wedding like some stranger from nowhere and tell me his father threatened him. She stepped closer. And now you want me to leave with you? Nathan remained calm. Yes. Emily laughed bitterly. You've got to be kidding me. I understand why you don't trust me. You don't understand anything. I know what it feels like when the person you trust most suddenly disappears. Emily's expression hardened. Don't compare yourself to me. I wasn't. Then tell me the truth. Nathan looked at her. I will. Now. He glanced around the chapel. Your guests are listening. I don't care. You should. Why? Because Richard Brooks isn't the kind of man who loses quietly. Robert stepped forward. That's enough. He looked directly at Nathan. You're coming with me. Nathan nodded. Fine. Robert led them toward a small private room beside the chapel. Emily followed. Sarah came behind them, but Robert stopped her. Stay with the guests. Sarah nodded reluctantly. The door closed. Emily, Robert, and Nathan stood inside. For several seconds, no one spoke. Then Robert pointed at Nathan. Start talking. Nathan nodded. My name is Nathan Reed. Until 3 weeks ago, I worked for Brooks Financial Group. Robert's expression changed. You worked for Richard? Yes. As what? Senior financial investigator. Robert stared at him. Why would Richard employ an investigator? To examine companies he was considering buying. Emily frowned. Buying? Nathan nodded. Richard doesn't just invest in companies. He studies them first. Robert crossed his arms. And Carter Construction? Nathan looked at him. Yes. Emily's eyes widened. My father's company? Richard has been watching it for almost a year. Robert's face became pale. Why? Because he wants to buy it. Robert shook his head. I already rejected his offer. Nathan nodded. I know. How? Because I reviewed the file. Robert took a step toward him. What was the offer? $6 million. Robert laughed bitterly. That isn't even close to what the company is worth. I know. Then why would he think I'd accept? Because he planned to make you desperate. Robert went silent. Emily looked at her father. What does that mean? Nathan answered. He started attacking your contracts. Robert's eyes narrowed. What contracts? 3 major clients were pressured to terminate agreements with Carter Construction. Robert stared. How do you know? Because I saw the communications. Robert's face hardened. I thought those companies were unhappy with our work. They weren't. Nathan opened his phone and showed him several documents. These cancellations were coordinated. Robert took the phone. He read the messages. Emily watched his face. What? Robert looked up. These are real. Nathan nodded. Richard wanted your company to appear unstable. Emily felt a chill. Why? So you'd eventually sell. Robert looked at Nathan. And Daniel knew? Yes. When? About 6 months ago. Emily stared. 6 months? Nathan nodded. He discovered financial irregularities in his father's companies. What kind? Money transfers. That's vague. Millions of dollars. Robert's face changed. Emily stepped closer. Where did the money go? Nathan hesitated. Shell companies. Whose? That's what Daniel was trying to prove. Emily's heart was pounding. So Daniel was investigating his own father? Yes. Why? Because he believed Richard was stealing from investors. Robert shook his head. Richard is ruthless, but he's not stupid. Nathan looked at him. That's exactly why he's dangerous. Emily opened the black envelope. There was another sheet of paper inside. She unfolded it. Only one sentence was written. Ask Nathan about Lily. Emily looked up. Nathan. He went still. What? Who's Lily? Nathan's face changed. For the first time since entering the chapel, he looked genuinely vulnerable. My sister. Emily waited. What happened to her? Nathan didn't answer. Robert looked at him. You don't have to tell us. Nathan nodded slowly. Then he sat down. 3 years ago, Lily was 24. Emily sat across from him. She was smart, funny, stubborn. A faint smile appeared on his face. She could make friends with anyone. What happened? She met a man named Caleb. Nathan's smile disappeared. He told her he was starting a real estate company. Emily listened. He convinced her to invest her savings. How much? Almost $80,000. Emily's eyes widened. And he stole it. Nathan nodded. He disappeared. Emily whispered. Did she report him? Yes. Did they catch him? Nathan looked down. No. Why? Because Caleb had connections. Emily felt something familiar in the story. Richard? Nathan looked up. Yes. Emily's stomach dropped. What does Richard have to do with your sister? He helped Caleb disappear? Robert stood suddenly. Are you saying Richard Brooks stole your sister's money? No. Nathan's voice became bitter. He helped the man who stole it? Emily stared at him. Why? Because Caleb was part of one of Richard's shell companies. Silence. Nathan continued. Lily spent months fighting. She must have been devastated. She was. His voice cracked. She lost her savings, her apartment, her confidence. Emily reached across the table. What happened to her? Nathan swallowed. She died. Emily's eyes filled with tears. How? She overdosed. The room went silent. Nathan stared at the floor. She didn't leave a note. Emily whispered, I'm sorry. Nathan nodded. After that, I started investigating Richard. And that's how you met Daniel? Yes. He knew about Lily? Yes. He helped you? Nathan looked at her. He wanted to expose his father because of what happened to Lily. Emily looked at the note. Suddenly, the words made sense. Daniel had known Nathan's story. He had known what Richard was capable of. And he had become afraid. Emily looked at Nathan. If Daniel knew all of this, why didn't he tell me? Nathan sighed. Because Richard threatened you. What exactly did he threaten? Nathan reached into his jacket. He pulled out another document. He showed Daniel this. Robert took it. His eyes widened. What is this? A lawsuit. Robert read the first page, then the second. His face turned pale. This is fabricated. Yes. Emily looked over his shoulder. What is it? Richard prepared a case claiming your father committed financial fraud. Emily stared. That's impossible. I know. Nathan continued. He planned to file it if Daniel married you. Emily felt sick. He would have destroyed Dad. Yes. Even if the accusations were false? Yes. But eventually the truth would come out. Maybe. Nathan looked at her. But not before your father's company collapsed. Emily's eyes filled with tears. So Daniel thought leaving me would protect my family. Nathan nodded. Yes. Emily sat down. He should have told me. Yes. He should have trusted me. Yes. He should have let me choose. Nathan nodded. Yes. Emily looked at him. You're not defending him. No. Why? Because what Daniel did was wrong. Emily looked surprised. Nathan continued. He loved you. But love doesn't give someone the right to decide what another person can handle. Emily looked away. For the first time that day, she felt understood. Not comforted. Not pitied. Understood. The black envelope. Emily looked at the envelope again. There has to be more. Nathan nodded. There is. What? A recording. Of Daniel? No. Richard? Yes. Emily's heart jumped. What does it say? I haven't listened to it. Why? Because Daniel told me not to. Emily frowned. When did he give it to you? Last night. You saw him? Yes. Where? At a parking garage. Was he alone? No. Emily's heart sank. Who was with him? Nathan looked at her. His father. Robert stepped forward. Richard was with Daniel? Yes. What happened? I don't know. You were there. I was across the street. Why? Daniel told me to stay away. Emily stood. Why? Nathan looked at her. Because he believed Richard was going to hurt him. Robert clenched his fists. Did he? I don't know. Emily looked at Nathan. When did you last see Daniel? 11:45 p.m. Last night? Yes. And he was alive? Yes. What did he say? Nathan's expression darkened. He said, he stopped. Emily stepped closer. What? Nathan looked at her. He said, if I don't make it to the wedding, don't let Emily believe I abandoned her. Emily's eyes filled with tears. She covered her mouth. Nathan continued. He said, she deserves to know the truth. Emily started crying. He knew. Yes. He knew he might not come. Yes. Why didn't he call me? Nathan lowered his eyes. Because Richard had his phone. Emily froze. What? Richard took it. Robert looked at Nathan. You're saying Richard prevented Daniel from contacting her? Yes. Emily wiped her tears. Then the note? Nathan nodded. Daniel wrote it before he met his father. Emily stared. So Daniel didn't leave that note this morning? No. When? Last night. Emily's heart broke. She had spent the entire day believing Daniel had abandoned her. But he had written the note while knowing he might never get another chance to explain. Nathan reached into his pocket. He pulled out his phone. I have the recording. Emily looked at him. Play it. Nathan hesitated. Are you sure? Yes. Robert moved closer. Nathan pressed play. At first there was only static. Then Daniel's voice. Dad, please. Richard's voice followed. You're making a mistake. I love her. That doesn't matter. It matters to me. You don't understand what happens if you marry her. I understand exactly. No, Daniel. You don't. A pause. Then Richard said something that made Emily's blood run cold. If you marry Emily tomorrow, her father's company will be destroyed before the week is over. Emily stared at Nathan's phone. Daniel's voice trembled. You can't do that. I already have. Robert's face went white. Richard continued. 3 clients have already been contacted. Emily looked at her father. Robert slowly lowered himself into a chair. The recording continued. Daniel whispered. Why are you doing this? Richard answered coldly. Because you forgot who you belong to. Daniel said. I don't belong to you. A long silence. Then Richard's voice became quiet. If you walk into that church tomorrow... Another pause. Emily's father goes to prison. The recording ended. Nobody spoke. Emily's breathing became uneven. Robert looked devastated. Nathan put the phone away. Emily whispered. He threatened my father with prison. Yes. And Daniel believed him. Yes. Emily wiped her cheeks. Then where is Daniel now? Nathan didn't answer. Emily looked at him. Nathan, I don't know. But you said you were with him last night. I was. Then what happened? Nathan's face became tense. After Richard left, Daniel told me to wait. Where did he go? He said he had one more thing to do. What? I don't know. Did he call you? No. Did he text? No. Emily stood. Then we find him. Nathan looked at her. Emily? No. She shook her head. I've spent enough time waiting. She looked at her father. We're finding Daniel. Robert nodded. Nathan stood. There's something else. Emily looked at him. What? Before Daniel left last night, he gave me a key. He pulled a small silver key from his pocket. Emily stared. What does it open? Nathan looked at her. I don't know. Where did he tell you to use it? Nathan's voice became quiet. He said. He paused. When Emily is ready to know everything, take her to the place where it all started. Emily frowned. Where? Nathan looked toward the chapel. Carter Construction? Emily's eyes widened. My father's company? Nathan nodded. And if I'm right, he looked at the key in his hand. We're about to discover why Richard Brooks was so desperate to keep Daniel away from you. The next morning, Emily stood outside Carter Construction and stared at the building she had grown up around. For most of her life, the place had represented security. Her grandfather had started the company with one pickup truck and 2 employees. Her father had turned it into a respected regional construction business. Emily had spent countless afternoons there as a child, sitting in her father's office while he worked. She knew every hallway, every conference room, every framed photograph on the walls. But that morning, for the first time, the building looked different. It looked like a crime scene. Nathan parked beside her. Neither of them moved. Emily looked at the silver key in his hand. Where do we start? Nathan pointed toward the main entrance. Your father's office. Emily shook her head. No. Nathan looked at her. What? If Daniel said this is where it all started, it wouldn't be Dad's office. Why? Because Dad would know if someone had been hiding something there. Nathan considered that. Then where? Emily looked toward the back of the building. There's an old records room. Nathan frowned. Records room? My grandfather used it. Does anyone still use it? Not officially. Nathan opened the car door. Then let's go. 8:14 a.m. The building was unusually quiet. Most employees hadn't arrived yet. Emily unlocked the side entrance with her father's spare key. Inside, the familiar smell of coffee and construction dust greeted her. Nathan followed. You've been here your whole life? Almost. She walked past framed photographs. Her grandfather. Her father. The first construction crew. The company's first major project. Then Emily stopped. She stared at a photograph. What? Nathan asked. Emily pointed. That man. Nathan looked at the picture. An old black and white photograph showed 6 men standing beside a construction truck. One of them was her grandfather. Another was a younger Robert. And standing on the far right was Frank Miller, Nathan said. Emily nodded. He was already working with my grandfather. Nathan studied the photograph. How long? 35 years. He looked at her. And your father trusted him? Completely. Nathan didn't respond. Emily continued down the hallway. They reached an old wooden door. A faded sign read, Archives, authorized personnel only. Emily pulled out a key. It didn't fit. Nathan held up the silver key. Try this. Emily inserted it. The lock clicked. She looked at Nathan. Why would Daniel have this? I don't know. She opened the door. The room smelled of dust and old paper. Boxes covered the walls. Metal filing cabinets lined one side. A single window let in a narrow beam of morning sunlight. Emily stepped inside. What are we looking for? Nathan looked around. Something your grandfather hid. Emily frowned. How do you know he hid something? Daniel told me. What exactly? He said your grandfather knew Richard before anyone else did. Emily froze. My grandfather knew Richard? Nathan nodded. According to Daniel? That makes no sense. Why? My grandfather died 15 years ago. That doesn't mean he couldn't have known him. Emily thought for a moment. Then she walked toward the filing cabinets. My grandfather kept everything. She opened the first drawer. Old contracts, tax records, property documents, nothing unusual. The second drawer. Construction permits, employee records, nothing. The third. Emily stopped. There was a folder marked RB. She pulled it out. Nathan stepped closer. What does RB stand for? Emily stared at the initials. Richard Brooks. She opened it. Inside were photographs, contracts, handwritten notes, and one newspaper clipping. The headline read, Local investor announces major development partnership. Emily read the article. Her grandfather had partnered with Richard Brooks 26 years earlier. Her eyes widened. Dad never told me this. Nathan looked at the documents. Maybe your father didn't know. Emily shook her head. He would have. Not necessarily. She pulled out another document. It was a contract. Nathan read it. This is a partnership agreement. Emily looked at him. Between my grandfather and Richard? Nathan nodded. But look at the date. Emily did. Her face went pale. The contract was dated 2 weeks before Richard founded Brooks Financial Group. That means, Nathan finished for her, Richard didn't build his company alone. Emily continued reading. Then she saw something that made her blood run cold. A handwritten note at the bottom. Robert cannot know. Emily stared. That's my dad. Nathan nodded. What does it mean? I don't know. Emily turned the page. There was another note. If Richard comes back, the company must never be sold. Emily's heart raced. Why? Nathan didn't answer. Then something fell from the folder. A photograph. Emily picked it up. It showed 3 people. Her grandfather, Richard Brooks, and a woman Emily didn't recognize. The woman was holding a baby. Emily looked at Nathan. Who is she? Nathan studied the picture. I don't know. Emily turned the photograph over. Written on the back were 4 words. The child is mine. She stared. What child? Nathan looked at her. I don't know. Emily felt confused. Then she noticed something. The woman was wearing a necklace, a small silver pendant. Emily had seen that necklace before. Her eyes widened. Wait, what? That woman. Emily pointed to the photograph. She worked for my grandfather. Who? Margaret. Margaret who? Margaret Reed. Nathan went completely still. Emily looked at him. What? What did you say? Margaret Reed. Nathan's face drained of color. That's my mother's name? Emily stared at him. No. Nathan took the photograph. He looked at it again. His hands began trembling. My mother died when I was 10. Emily whispered. Your mother? Nathan nodded. That woman? He touched the photograph. That's her. Silence. Emily looked at him. But why would she be with my grandfather and Richard? Nathan couldn't answer. Then Emily noticed the baby. She looked closer. The child was wearing a small hospital bracelet. There was a name written on it. Nathan. Nathan's breathing stopped. He stared at the photograph. That can't be possible. Emily looked at him. What? I was born in Chicago. Where? St. Mary's Hospital. Emily looked at the bracelet. The photograph had been taken in Boston. Nathan shook his head. My mother told me I was born in Chicago. Emily whispered. Maybe she lied. Nathan stepped backward. No. Why? Because my mother never lied to me. Maybe she had a reason. Nathan stared at the photograph. His hands were shaking. Then something inside the folder caught Emily's attention. A birth certificate. She pulled it out. The name at the top was Nathan Reed. Date of birth, March 14th, 1994. Place of birth, Boston General Hospital. Nathan stared at it. I was born in Boston. Emily nodded slowly. Yes. My mother told me Chicago. Why? Nathan looked at her. I don't know. He flipped the document over. There was a handwritten note. Richard must never know that the boy survived. Nathan stopped breathing. Emily looked at him. What does that mean? Nathan whispered. I don't know. Then they heard footsteps outside. Both froze. Someone was walking down the hallway. Slowly. Closer. Nathan grabbed the folder. "Turn off the light." Emily switched off the light. They moved behind a row of cabinets. The door opened. Someone entered. Emily held her breath. She could hear footsteps. Then a man's voice. "Where is it?" Nathan looked at Emily. She recognized the voice. Frank Miller. The footsteps moved deeper into the room. Frank was searching. He was looking for the folder. Nathan silently pointed toward the back exit. Emily nodded. They waited. Frank opened a cabinet. "Damn it." He moved toward another. Nathan whispered, "Now." They slipped through the rear door. Emily closed it quietly. They hurried down the hallway. But before they reached the stairs, they heard Frank shout. They were here. Emily and Nathan ran. The parking lot. They burst outside. Nathan unlocked the car. Emily jumped in. He started the engine. They sped away. For several minutes, neither spoke. Finally, Emily looked at Nathan. "Your mother knew my grandfather." "Yes." "And Richard knew her." "Yes." "And you were born in Boston." "Yes." "But you were told Chicago." "Yes." Emily looked at the folder. "Why would someone hide your birth?" Nathan shook his head. "I don't know." Then his phone rang. "Unknown number?" Nathan answered. "Hello?" No response. "Who's this?" Static. Then a man's voice. "You should have left the past alone." Nathan's face changed. "Richard?" The caller laughed. "No." Nathan's grip tightened around the phone. "Then who?" The voice answered. "Someone who knows what happened to Daniel." The call ended. Emily stared at him. "What did he say?" Nathan looked at her. "He knows where Daniel is." "The old warehouse." The caller sent one message. An address. Emily recognized it. An abandoned warehouse on the edge of Boston. Her grandfather had owned it decades ago. Nathan looked at her. "Do you know this place?" "Yes." "Have you ever been inside?" "No." They arrived 30 minutes later. The warehouse looked abandoned. Broken windows. Rusty doors. Weeds growing through cracks in the pavement. Nathan parked outside. "Stay here." Emily shook her head. "No." "Emily, you already told me that yesterday." "This could be dangerous." "So could staying in the car." Nathan sighed. "Stay behind me." They entered. The building was dark. Dust covered everything. Nathan switched on his flashlight. "Hello?" Nothing. Then they heard something. A faint sound. Someone coughing. Emily's heart jumped. "Daniel?" They followed the sound. At the back of the warehouse was a small room. Nathan opened the door. Emily stopped. Daniel was sitting on the floor. His hands were tied. His face was bruised. His shirt was stained with blood. Emily covered her mouth. "Daniel..." His eyes lifted. He looked at her. "Emily?" She rushed toward him. Nathan cut the rope. Emily dropped beside Daniel. "What happened?" Daniel tried to speak. Nathan gave him water. Daniel drank slowly. Then he looked at Emily. "I didn't leave you." Emily began crying. "I know. I tried to come back." "I know." "Richard..." Daniel's breathing became difficult. Nathan looked around. "Where is he?" Daniel shook his head. "Not Richard." Emily frowned. "Then who?" Daniel looked at her. "The person behind everything." He swallowed. "Is someone you never suspected?" Emily's heart pounded. "Who?" Daniel stared toward the doorway, then whispered, "Your father." Emily froze. "What?" Daniel shook his head. "No," he corrected himself. "Not your father." He looked at Nathan. "His business partner." Emily's eyes widened. "Frank." Daniel nodded. "Yes." Then he grabbed Emily's wrist. "But that's not the worst part." Emily stared at him. "What could be worse?" Daniel looked at Nathan. "His mother." Nathan froze. "What about my mother?" Daniel's voice became barely audible. "She didn't die when you were 10. Nathan stopped breathing. Daniel continued. "She disappeared." Nathan's face went white. "And Richard knows where she is." Nathan didn't move. For several seconds, he simply stared at Daniel. His face had lost all color. My mother is dead. Daniel shook his head. No, she died when I was 10. That's what they wanted you to believe. Nathan's voice became dangerously quiet. Who? Daniel looked at him. Richard. Nathan stepped closer. Why? Daniel swallowed. Because your mother knew the truth. Emily looked between them. What truth? Daniel closed his eyes. The truth about your grandfather. Emily frowned. My grandfather? Daniel nodded. Your grandfather didn't just build Carter Construction. He looked at Nathan. He built it with Nathan's mother. Nathan's eyes widened. What? Daniel continued. Her name was Margaret Reed. Nathan looked at Emily. The woman in the photograph. Emily nodded. Yes. Daniel whispered. She was your grandfather's business partner. Nathan shook his head. No, she was. My mother worked at a bank. Daniel looked at him. That's what she told you. Nathan's jaw tightened. Why would she lie? Because she was protecting you. From what? Daniel hesitated. Richard. Nathan grabbed Daniel's shoulder. Tell me everything. Daniel winced. Emily stepped between them. Nathan. Nathan released him. Daniel took a breath. 26 years ago, Margaret Reed and your grandfather started a company together. Emily stared. What company? Carter Construction? Emily's mouth opened. What? Daniel nodded. Your grandfather wasn't the original owner. He looked at Emily. Margaret was. Emily felt dizzy. My grandfather told everyone he started it. I know. Why? Because Margaret disappeared. Nathan whispered. Why? Daniel looked at him. Because she discovered Richard was stealing from the company. Nathan's face hardened. So Richard killed her? No. Daniel shook his head. He couldn't. Then what? He threatened her. With what? Her son. Nathan stopped. Daniel continued. Richard told Margaret that if she went to the police, he'd make sure her son disappeared. Nathan's breathing became uneven. So she left? Yes. And left me? She believed she was protecting you. Nathan turned away. He pressed both hands against his face. Emily watched him. She could see the pain in his expression. The same pain she had felt when she believed Daniel had abandoned her. Except Nathan had carried his pain for 20 years. He had spent his entire life believing his mother had died, when perhaps she had been alive all along. Emily gently touched his shoulder. Nathan. He turned toward her. Why didn't anyone tell me? Daniel answered. Because Richard made sure no one could. The hidden file. Daniel reached into his jacket. He pulled out a small flash drive. I found this in Richard's private office. Nathan stared at it. What is it? Records. About my mother? About everything. Emily looked at Daniel. Why didn't you give this to the police? Because I didn't know who I could trust. Emily frowned. You trusted Nathan. Yes. And me? Daniel looked at her. I always trusted you. Then why did you leave me? Daniel lowered his eyes. Because I was scared. Emily's voice softened. Of losing me? Of being the reason you lost everything. Emily shook her head. You should have let me choose. I know. I would have stayed. I know. You should have trusted me. Daniel nodded. I know. Emily's eyes filled with tears. But you didn't. No. There was no excuse. No defense. Just regret. Nathan looked at the flash drive. What does it contain? Daniel answered. Bank transfers? Between who? Richard and Frank. Nathan's eyes narrowed. How much? Enough to prove both of them were involved. Emily looked at Daniel. What else? Daniel hesitated. There are payments to someone named Margaret Reed. Nathan froze. My mother? Yes. When? Every month. How long? 20 years. Nathan's face went blank. 20 years. Someone had been paying his mother. 20 years of payments. 20 years of secrecy. Emily whispered. Where? Daniel looked at Nathan. That's the part I couldn't find. Nathan stared at him. You mean you don't know where she is? No, but Richard does. Yes. The call. Nathan pulled out his phone. He called Richard. Emily grabbed his arm. "What are you doing?" "I need answers." "Nathan, he's dangerous." "I don't care." The call connected. Richard answered after 3 rings. "Hello, Nathan." Nathan froze. "You know it's me." Richard laughed softly. "I've known where you were since yesterday." Emily's stomach dropped. Nathan looked around the warehouse. "Where is my mother?" Silence. Then Richard said, "Still chasing ghosts? You told me she was dead." "I told you what you needed to hear." Nathan's eyes filled with rage. "Where is she?" Richard laughed again. "You're becoming emotional." "Where is she?" "You really should stop asking questions." Nathan's voice became cold. "You took 20 years from me." "No," Richard corrected him. "Your mother took 20 years from you." Nathan's jaw tightened. "Don't lie to me." Richard sighed. "Your mother made a choice." "What choice?" "She chose to disappear." "Because you threatened her." Richard was silent. Nathan knew. "You did." Richard's voice changed. "You have no idea what you're talking about." "Then tell me where she is." Another pause. Then Richard said, "She'll contact you when she's ready." Nathan stared at the phone. "Why would she?" "Because she knows what will happen if she doesn't." The line went dead. Nathan slowly lowered the phone. Emily looked at him. "What did he say?" Nathan didn't answer. Daniel spoke. "He knows." "Yes." "He knows where she is." "Yes." "Then we'll find her." Nathan looked at him. "How?" Daniel pointed toward the flash drive. "There's an address hidden in the files." Emily took the drive. "Where?" Daniel shook his head. "I couldn't open it." "Why?" "It's encrypted." Nathan looked at Emily. "Do you know anyone who can break it?" Emily thought. Then she remembered someone. "Dr. Jensen." "Who's that?" "My grandfather's old accountant." "Is he still alive?" "Yes." "Where?" "Pennsylvania." Nathan nodded. "Then we drive." The road to Pennsylvania. They left the warehouse before sunrise. Daniel stayed in the back seat. He was weak but conscious. Emily sat beside him. Nathan drove. For almost 2 hours, nobody spoke. Then Daniel said quietly, "Emily." She looked at him. "What?" "I'm sorry." She sighed. "You've already said that." "I know." "Then stop saying it." Daniel looked surprised. Emily continued. "If you're sorry, make it mean something." "How?" "Tell me the truth." Daniel nodded. "Okay." He looked out the window. "I wasn't the only one investigating Richard." Emily frowned. "Who else?" "Your grandfather." Emily's eyes widened. "What?" "Before he died, your grandfather knew Richard was stealing." "Then why didn't he expose him?" "Because he was afraid." "Of Richard?" Daniel nodded. "But he left something behind." "What?" "A letter." "Where?" "In your father's office." Emily frowned. "My father's office?" "Yes." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because Richard had someone inside Carter Construction." "Frank." Daniel nodded. "He monitored everything." Emily thought about the archive room. "That's why Frank was looking for the folder." "Yes." "Did he know about Nathan?" "No." "Then why was he looking for the records?" "Because he knew your grandfather had evidence." Emily stared out the window. "What did my grandfather write?" Daniel looked at her. "That Richard wasn't the most dangerous person involved." Emily turned. "What?" Daniel's voice became quiet. "Richard had a partner." Nathan glanced at him through the rearview mirror. "Who?" Daniel shook his head. "I don't know." "Then how do you know there was one?" "Because your grandfather wrote it." Emily's stomach tightened. "What did he call this person?" Daniel looked at her. "The shadow." "The accountant." They arrived in Pennsylvania late that afternoon. Dr. Jensen lived in a quiet neighborhood outside Harrisburg. He was 81 years old. When he opened the door and saw Emily, his expression changed. "Robert's daughter?" "Yes." He looked behind her. Then his eyes landed on Nathan. His face went pale. "You." Nathan frowned. "You know me?" Jensen didn't answer. Instead, he stepped backward. "Come inside." They entered. Jensen locked the door. Then another lock. Then another. Nathan watched him. Why are you afraid? Jensen looked at him. Because your mother was right. Nathan's heart stopped. You knew my mother? Jensen nodded. I worked with her. Where is she? Jensen sighed. I don't know. Nathan's face fell. But you knew what happened. Yes. Tell me. Jensen sat down. Your mother discovered something. What? She discovered that Richard wasn't stealing from Carter Construction. Emily frowned. Then what was he doing? Jensen looked at her. He was stealing from your grandfather. Emily stared. That doesn't make sense. It does when you understand the original ownership. He pointed toward an old filing cabinet. Your grandfather and Margaret Reed built the company together. Emily nodded. But when the company became successful, Richard wanted control. Why? Because he believed Margaret's son would inherit everything. Nathan froze. Me? Jensen nodded. Your mother planned to leave the company to you. Nathan stared. I didn't even know there was a company. Exactly. Jensen continued. Richard couldn't allow that. Emily asked. So he forced Margaret to disappear? Yes. Where did she go? Jensen looked toward the window. She went to protect you. Nathan whispered. Where? Jensen reached into his desk. He pulled out a faded envelope. This was delivered to me 20 years ago. Nathan took it. His hands shook. What is it? A letter from your mother. Nathan opened it. Inside was a photograph. A young Margaret stood beside a little boy. Nathan. On the back was a message. My son. If you're reading this, I'm sorry. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. I left because loving you was the only reason I could survive leaving. Nathan's eyes filled with tears. He kept reading. One day you'll learn why. When that happens, find Emily Carter. Nathan stopped. He looked at Emily. She stared back at him. Why me? Jensen answered. Because your grandfather trusted you. Emily looked confused. I was a child. Exactly. What could I possibly do? Jensen smiled sadly. Your grandfather believed you would grow into someone who valued people more than money. Emily looked at Nathan. What else does the letter say? Nathan continued reading. Then his face changed. What? Emily asked. Nathan handed her the letter. The final sentence read, The shadow is still watching you. Emily's blood ran cold. Jensen stood. You need to leave. Nathan looked at him. Why? Because if the shadow knows you have that letter... A loud crash came from outside. Everyone froze. Jensen whispered. They're here. The escape. A car door slammed outside. Then another. Nathan grabbed Emily's hand. Back door. Daniel stood. I'll come. No, Nathan said. You can't leave me here. Nathan helped him up. They rushed through the kitchen. Another crash. The front door broke open. Someone shouted, Search the house! Emily's heart pounded. They reached the back door. Jensen stopped them. Wait! He grabbed another envelope. He handed it to Emily. Your grandfather left this for you. What is it? Read it when you're safe. Emily took it. They ran. Nathan helped Daniel into the car. Emily climbed in. Nathan started the engine. They sped away. Behind them, Jensen's house disappeared into the darkness. Emily looked at the envelope. She wanted to open it immediately, but Nathan shook his head. Not yet. Why? Because your grandfather wanted you to read it when you're safe. Emily looked at the rearview mirror. A black SUV was following them. Her heart stopped. Nathan, I see it. Are they following us? Yes. The SUV accelerated. Nathan stepped on the gas. Daniel looked behind them. They know. Emily held the envelope against her chest. Who? Daniel's face became pale. The shadow. The SUV moved closer. Nathan turned sharply onto another road. The black vehicle followed. Emily's phone suddenly rang. Unknown number? She answered. Hello? No response. Then a woman's voice whispered. Emily? Emily froze. Who is this? The woman began crying. I'm Margaret. Nathan slammed on the brakes. The car stopped. He turned toward Emily. His eyes were wide. Emily slowly put the phone on speaker. The woman's trembling voice filled the car. Nathan is in danger. Nathan leaned toward the phone. Mom? Silence. Then Margaret whispered, My son. Nathan's eyes filled with tears. Where are you? I can't tell you. Please. I've been watching you for years. Nathan covered his mouth. Why didn't you come back? Because I was afraid. Of Richard? No. Margaret's voice trembled. Of the shadow. Nathan looked at Emily. Who is the shadow? There was a long silence. Then Margaret said, Someone in your family. Emily's heart stopped. What? Margaret continued. Emily, don't trust anyone. Who? Margaret whispered one final sentence. Not even your father. The call disconnected. Emily stared at the phone. Nathan stared at her. Daniel slowly closed his eyes. And in the darkness behind them, the black SUV was still coming. The black SUV was getting closer. Nathan gripped the steering wheel. Emily looked through the rear window. They're still following us. I know. Can you lose them? Nathan glanced at the road ahead. Maybe. Daniel was lying across the back seat, still weak from his injuries. He suddenly spoke. Don't go home. Nathan looked at him in the mirror. Why? Because they'll expect it. Emily's heart raced. Who? Richard. Daniel slowly sat up. He knows about the investigation. Nathan frowned. How? Frank told him. Emily stared at Daniel. But Frank was arrested. Daniel nodded. Before he was arrested, he made one call. To Richard? Yes. Nathan's jaw tightened. Then Richard knows we're together. Daniel looked toward Emily. He knows everything. Emily felt a chill. My father... Daniel nodded. That's why Margaret warned you. Emily held the steering wheel with one hand. What did she mean when she said not to trust my father? Daniel hesitated. I don't know. You knew my father was involved? No. Then why did she say it? Daniel looked down. Because she didn't trust him. Emily shook her head. My father would never hurt me. I didn't say he would. Then what are you saying? Daniel looked at Nathan. That your father may not be the man you think he is. Nathan looked at Emily. Maybe Margaret knows something we don't. Emily stared ahead. Then we find her. Nathan nodded. But first we lose that SUV. The chase. Nathan turned onto a narrow country road. The SUV followed. Emily's heart hammered. It's still behind us. Nathan looked at the side mirror. They're not trying to hide anymore. Daniel sat up. Turn left at the next intersection. Nathan frowned. Why? There's an old service road. Where does it go? Behind the abandoned textile mill. Nathan followed the instruction. The road narrowed. Branches scraped against the sides of the car. The SUV struggled to follow. Nathan accelerated. Then suddenly, the road split. Nathan went right. The SUV went left. For a few seconds, both vehicles disappeared behind the trees. Nathan slammed on the brakes. Everybody down. Emily ducked. Daniel lowered himself. The SUV came back into view. It stopped. A man stepped out. He looked around. Then another man joined him. Emily whispered, Who are they? Nathan shook his head. I don't know. The men searched the road. One of them pointed toward the trees. Nathan waited. Finally, the men returned to their SUV. It drove away. Nathan waited another minute. Then he started the car. We're going somewhere else. Where? My friend's cabin. The cabin. 2 hours later, they reached a small cabin in the mountains. It belonged to Nathan's former college roommate, Mike. Nobody lived there anymore. It was isolated. No cell service. No neighbors nearby. Nathan locked the door behind them. Emily helped Daniel sit on the couch. You need a doctor? Daniel shook his head. No hospitals. Why? Richard has people everywhere. Emily looked at Nathan. Is that true? Nathan nodded. We can't risk it. Daniel pulled his jacket tighter around himself. We need to figure out what's on that drive. Emily took it from her purse. She placed it on the table. Nathan looked at it. The encryption. Emily nodded. Dr. Jensen couldn't open it. Because it's not a normal password. What is it? Daniel answered. A phrase. What phrase? I don't know. Emily frowned. You don't know? Richard changed it. How did you get the drive? Daniel looked at Nathan. From his office. Nathan stared. You broke into his office? Yes. When? 3 nights before the wedding. Emily shook her head. You knew this was coming. I knew something was wrong. Then why didn't you tell me? Daniel looked at her. Because I was trying to fix it. Emily sighed. That was your problem. Daniel nodded. I know. Nathan looked at the drive. Maybe we don't need the password. Emily frowned. What do you mean? Nathan took out his laptop. If the files are stored in an old system, there may be a backup. He connected the drive. Nothing happened. He tried another port. Still nothing. Then he noticed something. A tiny symbol appeared on the screen. A blue key. Nathan stared. What? Emily asked. This drive is connected to something. What? A server. Whose? Nathan looked at her. Carter Construction? Emily's heart dropped. How? I don't know. Daniel sat forward. Maybe your grandfather designed it. Emily remembered the old archive room. The company has a private server. Where? Basement. Nathan looked at her. Then that's where we go. The basement. They returned to Carter Construction after midnight. The building was dark. Emily used her key. They entered through the side door. Nathan carried the laptop. Daniel stayed in the car. You're sure you don't want me inside? He asked. Emily shook her head. You're injured. I can still help. You've helped enough. Daniel smiled sadly. That's the first time you've sounded like yourself. Emily smiled faintly. Stay here. Nathan and Emily entered. They walked through the empty building. The basement door was locked. Emily pulled out another key. The door opened. Cold air rushed toward them. The basement was filled with old equipment. Computer servers. Electrical panels. Boxes. Emily looked around. My grandfather built this. Nathan nodded. Looks like it. They found the server. Nathan connected the drive. The system came alive. A password screen appeared. Emily looked at Nathan. Any ideas? He typed several possibilities. Nothing. Daniel's voice came through Nathan's phone. Try March 14th. Nathan looked at Emily. Why? It's my birthday. Emily frowned. That's too obvious. Try it. Nathan typed. Sur 3 1994. The system unlocked. Emily stared. That's your birthday. Nathan nodded. Maybe my mother said it. A folder appeared. Margaret Reed. Nathan stopped breathing. He opened it. There were hundreds of files. Photographs, bank statements, letters, medical records, and videos. Emily clicked the first video. A young Margaret appeared on screen. She looked frightened. She was sitting in what appeared to be a small apartment. Her voice trembled. If Nathan ever sees this... She paused. I need him to know that I didn't abandon him. Nathan covered his mouth. Emily watched silently. Margaret continued. Richard threatened to take my son. Her eyes filled with tears. He said he'd tell the police I had stolen money from the company. She shook her head. I hadn't. Then she said something that made Emily's heart stop. But Richard wasn't the one I feared most. Emily looked at Nathan. Margaret continued. The person I feared was Robert Carter. Emily froze. My father? Nathan stared at the screen. Margaret spoke again. Robert knows what happened. The video ended. Emily felt sick. My father knew. Nathan didn't answer. Another video opened automatically. This time Margaret was older. She looked exhausted. If you're watching this, it means Richard failed to stop you. She looked directly into the camera. And it means the shadow has finally been exposed. Nathan leaned toward the screen. Who is the shadow? Margaret whispered. Robert Carter. Emily stepped backward. No. Nathan looked at her. Emily, no. She shook her head. My father isn't the shadow. The next file opened. It contained a photograph. Emily's father. Richard Brooks. Frank Miller. And Margaret. Standing together. Emily stared at it. Then she noticed something. A fourth person? Someone standing behind them. A man partially hidden in the shadows. Emily zoomed in. Her face went pale. I know him. Nathan looked at the image. Who? Emily whispered. That isn't my father. Nathan stared. Then who is it? Emily looked closer. It was an older man. A familiar face. A face she had seen hundreds of times. She whispered. My grandfather. Nathan frowned. Your grandfather was supposed to be dead when this picture was taken. Emily looked at the date. The photograph was dated 3 years after his funeral. Nathan stared at her. That isn't possible. Emily's hands trembled. My grandfather didn't die 15 years ago. Nathan looked at the photograph. He died 6 years ago. Emily nodded. Yes. The room became silent. Then they heard a sound upstairs. Footsteps. Nathan closed the laptop. Someone's here. Emily whispered. Who? Nathan grabbed her hand. Come on. They moved toward the basement stairs. The footsteps became louder. Then the lights went out. Emily gasped. Someone was coming down. A flashlight appeared. Nathan pulled Emily behind a stack of boxes. A man's voice echoed through the darkness. I know you're here. Emily recognized the voice. Her heart stopped. It was her father. Emily. Nathan looked at her. She covered her mouth. Robert's voice came again. Come out. Emily stepped forward. Nathan grabbed her arm. She shook her head. I need to know. They emerged. Robert stood at the bottom of the stairs. He looked exhausted. His eyes were filled with tears. Emily stared at him. Dad? Robert looked at the laptop. Then at Nathan. Then at Emily. You shouldn't have opened that. Emily's voice trembled. Why? Robert looked down. Because now they know you know. Who? Robert whispered. The shadow. Emily stepped closer. You? Robert shook his head. No. Then who? Robert looked toward the ceiling. I don't have much time. Nathan stepped forward. Where is Margaret? Robert looked at him. She's alive. Nathan's eyes filled with tears. Where? Robert whispered. She's closer than you think. Then suddenly, a gunshot echoed from upstairs. Robert collapsed. Emily screamed. Dad! Nathan rushed toward him. Robert grabbed Emily's hand. Don't trust. His voice faded. Don't trust who? Robert's eyes closed. Emily looked toward the stairs. Another shadow moved across the wall. Someone was coming down. And whoever it was had just shot her father. Dad! Emily dropped to her knees beside Robert. Blood was spreading across his shirt. Nathan immediately pulled off his jacket and pressed it against the wound. Keep pressure here. Emily's hands trembled. Is he alive? Nathan checked Robert's pulse. Yes. Then call 911. Nathan pulled out his phone. No signal. Emily stared at him. What? We're underground. The signal is weak. He grabbed Robert's phone from his pocket. Maybe this will work. Nothing. Emily looked toward the stairs. Someone shot my father. Nathan nodded. And they're still in the building. A sound came from above. Footsteps. Slow. Deliberate. Emily froze. Who is that? Nathan looked toward the staircase. I don't know. Then the footsteps stopped. Silence. Nathan whispered. Stay here. Emily shook her head. I'm not letting you go alone. You have to stay with your father. Nathan climbed the stairs. Emily remained beside Robert. Dad? Robert's eyes opened slightly. Emily, I'm here. His breathing was shallow. Listen to me. I'm listening. Your grandfather... Emily leaned closer. What about him? He didn't die. Emily's heart stopped. I know. Robert's eyes widened. How? We found the photograph. Robert closed his eyes. Then you know. Know what? That I lied to you. Emily's voice cracked. About what? Everything. The secret. Robert tried to sit up. Emily gently pushed him back. Don't move. I don't have much time. You're going to be okay. Robert looked at her. You've always been too good for this family. Emily began crying. What family? The Carter family. He swallowed. Your grandfather was a brilliant man. I know. He built everything. I know. But he made one terrible mistake. What? He trusted Richard. Emily shook her head. Richard betrayed him. Robert nodded. Yes. But there was someone else. The shadow? Robert looked at her. Yes. Who? Robert's eyes filled with regret. Me. Emily stopped breathing. No, I was the shadow. She stared at him. You? Robert nodded. I helped Richard. Why? Because I was afraid. Of him? No. Robert looked toward the ceiling. Of your grandfather. Emily couldn't understand. My grandfather was the person who raised me. He wasn't the man you think he was. What did he do? Robert's eyes filled with tears. He stole Margaret's company. Emily froze. What? Carter Construction originally belonged to Margaret. I know. Robert shook his head. You don't know everything. He coughed. Emily grabbed his hand. Tell me. Robert took a breath. Your grandfather didn't build the company with Margaret. He paused. He took it from her. Emily's face went pale. How? Forged documents. Why? Money. Emily stared at him. And Richard? Richard discovered what he had done. So Richard blackmailed him? No. Robert shook his head. Richard wanted a piece of it. Emily understood. So all of you were stealing from each other. Robert looked away. Yes. The real betrayal. Emily couldn't believe what she was hearing. My whole life. She struggled to speak. My whole life. I thought this company represented everything Grandpa stood for, Robert whispered. He wanted you to believe that. Why? Because he knew you would hate him if you knew the truth. Emily's eyes filled with tears. And you protected that lie? Yes. For how long? 20 years. 20 years? Robert nodded. I thought I was protecting our family. Emily stared at him. You weren't. I know. You destroyed people. I know. You let Margaret disappear. I know. You let Nathan believe his mother was dead. Robert closed his eyes. I know. Nathan suddenly appeared at the bottom of the stairs. Emily, she looked at him. His expression was grim. He's gone? Who? The shooter. Nathan came closer. Then he heard Robert. You were listening? Nathan nodded. I heard everything. Robert looked at him. I'm sorry. Nathan's eyes were filled with anger. You should be. Robert nodded. I deserve that. Nathan clenched his fists. You knew my mother was alive? Yes. You knew where she was? Yes. You let me mourn her for 20 years. Robert closed his eyes. I was trying to protect you. Nathan laughed bitterly. Everyone keeps saying that. Emily looked at him. Nathan's voice cracked. Richard said it. My mother said it. And now your father says it. He shook his head. I'm tired of people deciding what I deserve to know. Robert looked at him. You have every right to hate me. I don't hate you. Nathan paused. I just wish you had told the truth. Robert looked at Emily. I was going to. When? Tonight. Why? Because I knew Richard would come after you. Emily stared at him. You knew? Yes. Then why didn't you warn me? Robert looked toward the stairs. Because I didn't know who was watching. Nathan frowned. Who was watching? Robert's voice dropped. Someone inside your wedding. Emily froze. What? The shadow wasn't just one person. Nathan stared. What do you mean? Robert whispered. Richard has people everywhere. Who? Robert looked at Emily. One of them was standing beside you when you walked down the aisle. Emily's mind raced. Her bridesmaids. Her cousins. Daniel's family. The wedding coordinator. The photographer. Sarah. Emily suddenly thought of her maid of honor. No. Robert looked at her. You know who. Emily shook her head. Sarah wouldn't. Robert didn't answer. Dad. He looked at her. Is it Sarah? Robert's silence was enough. Emily felt as though someone had punched her. No. Nathan stepped closer. Who is Sarah? My best friend, Robert whispered. She knew Daniel was planning to expose Richard. Emily's eyes filled with tears. She wouldn't betray me. She didn't want to. Then why? Because Richard threatened her brother. Emily covered her mouth. What? Robert nodded. Her brother owes Richard a lot of money. Emily's heart sank. Sarah had always been there. Every birthday, every breakup, every family crisis. And now, Emily didn't know what to believe. The phone. Nathan's phone suddenly rang. Unknown number. Everyone froze. He answered. Hello? A woman's voice whispered. Don't trust Robert. Nathan looked at Emily. Who is this? The woman didn't answer. Then she said, Your mother is waiting. Nathan's breathing stopped. Where? You have 10 minutes. Tell me where. Carter Cemetery. Nathan's face changed. The line went dead. Emily stood. Your mother? Nathan nodded. She's at the cemetery. Robert suddenly grabbed Emily's wrist. No. She looked at him. Why? Because it's a trap. Nathan shook his head. I don't care. Robert's voice became desperate. Listen to me. Why? Because Margaret would never contact you there. How do you know? Because that's where Richard buried the evidence. Nathan stared. What evidence? Robert looked at him. The evidence that proves your mother was innocent. Nathan went still. Then I'm going. Robert shook his head. They're expecting you. Good. Nathan turned toward the stairs. Emily followed. Robert called after her. Emily? She stopped. He looked at her. If you go with him... He struggled to breathe. You may not come back. Emily looked at Nathan, then back at her father. I've already lost one wedding. Her voice was quiet. I'm not losing another person I love. Carter Cemetery. The cemetery was nearly empty. A cold wind moved through the trees. Nathan parked beside the old stone wall. Emily stepped out. You're sure about this? No. Nathan looked at her. But I'm going anyway. They walked between the graves. Emily noticed something strange. There were fresh flowers beside an old grave. The name on the stone read, Margaret Reed. Nathan stopped. His face went pale. This is her grave. Emily stared. But she's alive. Nathan nodded. Exactly. There was an envelope beneath the flowers. Nathan picked it up. Inside was a photograph. Margaret, alive, standing outside a house. On the back was an address. Nathan stared at it. She wants me to find her. Emily looked at the picture. Where is this? Nathan recognized the location. My childhood home. What? My mother's old house. Emily frowned. I thought you grew up in Chicago. I did. But the picture... Nathan looked at the house. This was sold before I was born. Suddenly, headlights appeared behind them. A black SUV. Nathan grabbed Emily's hand. Run. They hurried toward the opposite side of the cemetery. The SUV stopped. Two men stepped out. One shouted, Don't move! Nathan pulled Emily behind a stone wall. Stay down. A gunshot cracked through the air. Emily screamed. Another bullet struck the stone above them. Nathan grabbed her hand. We need to get out. They ran between the graves. Another shot. Then another. Emily stumbled. Nathan caught her. Are you okay? Yes. They reached the car. Nathan unlocked it. Before they could get inside, someone grabbed Emily from behind. She screamed. Nathan turned. A man covered Emily's mouth. Let her go! The man dragged her backward. Nathan attacked him. They crashed against the car. Emily fought free. Then another man appeared. He pointed a gun at Nathan. Stop. Nathan froze. Emily stared at the gun. Then a voice came from behind them. Enough. Everyone turned. A woman stood beneath the cemetery trees. Older. Gray hair. Long dark coat. Tears running down her face. Nathan stopped breathing. Mom? Margaret looked at him. My son? Nathan slowly walked toward her. Mom? She opened her arms. Nathan ran to her. They embraced. Emily watched them cry together. 20 years of grief. 20 years of unanswered questions. 20 years stolen from both of them. Then Margaret looked at Emily. Her expression changed. You shouldn't have come. Emily stepped closer. Why? Margaret looked terrified. Because now the shadow knows where you are. Emily frowned. I know who the shadow is. Margaret shook her head. No. She looked toward Nathan. You don't. Then she pointed toward the cemetery entrance. A man was standing there. Emily recognized him immediately. Her blood went cold. It was Frank Miller. But Frank wasn't alone. Standing beside him was Sarah, Emily's best friend. Sarah was crying. Emily whispered, Sarah. Sarah looked at her. I'm sorry. Emily felt her heart break. Margaret stepped forward. Emily, listen to me. What? Your father was never the shadow. Emily stared at her. Then who is? Margaret looked at Sarah. Then at Frank. Then back at Emily. Her voice became barely audible. The shadow, she swallowed, is the person who arranged your wedding. Emily's eyes widened. Who? Margaret's face filled with sorrow. Daniel's mother. Emily froze. What? Margaret whispered. She is the one who wanted you married to Daniel. Nathan stared at his mother. Why? Margaret looked toward the dark road. Because she needed access to your father's company. Emily's heart pounded. And Daniel? Margaret's eyes filled with tears. Daniel was never supposed to survive the wedding. Emily stopped breathing. Emily couldn't breathe. Daniel's mother? Margaret nodded. Her name is Victoria Brooks. Emily stared at her. But why would she want Daniel dead? Margaret looked at Daniel. Because Daniel discovered what she had done. Daniel's face went pale. My mother? Margaret nodded. She wasn't just working with Richard. She looked toward the dark cemetery. She was working with him. Daniel stepped forward. No, I wish I were wrong. No. Daniel shook his head. My mother loved me. Margaret's eyes filled with tears. She did. Then why? Because love doesn't always stop people from becoming afraid. Daniel looked at Emily. What did she do? Margaret answered quietly. She helped Richard take control of Carter Construction. Emily felt sick. How? By manipulating your father. My father? Yes. Margaret continued. Robert believed Richard was the mastermind. He didn't know Victoria was involved. Emily's mind raced. So Victoria arranged my marriage to Daniel? Yes. Why? To gain access to your family. Emily frowned. What access? Margaret looked at Nathan. The Carter family trust. Nathan understood first. Emily inherits it. Margaret nodded. When she marries, the trust becomes accessible. Emily's face went pale. My grandfather's trust? Yes. My father told me it was locked until I turned 35. That was true. Margaret looked at her. Until someone discovered a loophole. Emily's heart sank. Marriage? Yes. Emily suddenly understood. The wedding hadn't been about love. It had been about money. Her entire relationship with Daniel suddenly felt different. Every dinner, every family gathering, every conversation about their future. Was it all part of a plan? Emily looked at Daniel. Did you know? He shook his head. Not at first. When did you find out? 2 months ago. Emily's eyes filled with tears. And you still plan to marry me? I loved you. But you knew your mother wanted access to my trust. Yes. Then why didn't you tell me? Because I thought I could stop her. Emily shook her head. You couldn't. I know. Daniel looked broken. I thought if I exposed her, she'd come after you. She already did. I know. Sarah's confession. Emily turned toward Sarah. Her best friend was standing several feet away. Tears streamed down her face. Emily stared at her. You knew. Sarah shook her head. Not everything. You knew something. Yes. How long? Sarah looked down. 6 months. Emily's heart broke. 6 months? I didn't know what they were planning. You knew Daniel was investigating his family. Yes. You knew Richard threatened him. Yes. You knew the wedding was dangerous. Sarah began crying. I was trying to protect you. Emily's voice became bitter. Everyone keeps saying that. Sarah stepped closer. My brother. What about him? Richard had him arrested. Emily froze. What? He was charged with fraud. Was he guilty? No. Sarah wiped her tears. Richard promised he'd make the charges disappear if I helped him. Emily stared at her. What did you do? I gave him information. What information? Your wedding schedule? Emily's face fell. The guest list? Yes. The ceremony time? Yes. The location? Yes. Everything? Sarah nodded. I thought they were just trying to pressure Daniel. Emily's voice cracked. You helped them find me. Sarah covered her face. I'm sorry. Emily couldn't speak. Nathan stepped forward. Where is your brother now? Sarah looked at him. Dead. Nathan froze. What? He died 3 weeks ago. Emily's eyes widened. Richard killed him? Sarah shook her head. I don't know. She looked at Frank. But Frank told me Richard was responsible. Frank suddenly stepped forward. Don't listen to her. Sarah turned. You told me. I told you nothing. You said Richard ordered it. Frank's face hardened. You're lying. Sarah started crying. Emily looked between them. Something wasn't right. Margaret noticed it too. Frank. He turned. What? You've been working for Richard for 20 years. Frank stared at her. Yes. But you stopped working for him last year. Frank's face changed. Emily looked at Margaret. How do you know? Because Frank contacted me. Emily stared at Frank. Is that true? Frank didn't answer. Margaret continued. He wanted to escape. Frank finally spoke. Richard was going to kill me. Why? Because I knew too much. Emily looked at him. About what? Frank swallowed. The wedding? The real plan. Frank slowly lowered his weapon. The wedding wasn't supposed to happen. Emily frowned. What? It was supposed to look like a normal wedding. Daniel stared. Then what was the plan? Frank looked at him. You were supposed to marry Emily. Daniel's face hardened. And then? 3 days later, you were supposed to sign control of the trust to your mother. Victoria, Emily's stomach turned. Why would I agree? Frank looked at her. You wouldn't. Then how? Your marriage contract? Emily froze. What about it? Your attorney was replaced. Nathan's eyes narrowed. By whom? Frank looked at Emily. Victoria. Emily felt dizzy. My attorney? She arranged the paperwork. Daniel looked horrified. That's impossible. Frank shook his head. You signed it. Daniel stared at him. I never signed anything transferring Emily's trust. You signed a document giving your mother authority over the marital assets. Daniel's face went white. What? Emily looked at him. Did you? Daniel shook his head. I never saw that. Frank smiled bitterly. Because the document was hidden inside the prenup. Emily's hands began trembling. Then the marriage was a trap. Yes. And Daniel was going to lose everything? No. Frank looked at her. You were. Silence. The moment you married Daniel, your grandfather's trust would become vulnerable, Emily whispered. And if I refused? Frank looked at Daniel. Then Victoria planned to make it appear Daniel had abandoned you. Emily's eyes widened. She already did. Frank nodded. That was the backup plan. Nathan looked at him. Then why did Daniel disappear? Frank stared at Daniel. Because he found the documents. Daniel slowly shook his head. My mother... Yes. You tried to warn me? Frank nodded. I sent you the file. Daniel looked shocked. The email? Yes. I thought it was fake. It wasn't. Emily looked at Daniel. What happened after you read it? Daniel swallowed. I confronted my mother. What did she say? She denied everything. And then? She told me to leave. Emily whispered. And you did? Daniel looked at her. Yes. Because you thought she would hurt me. Yes. Emily looked down. I wish you had told me. I know. The woman behind the plan. Suddenly, headlights appeared beyond the cemetery. Everyone turned. A black sedan stopped. The driver's door opened. A woman stepped out. Elegant. Perfectly dressed. Gray blonde hair. Cold eyes. Daniel whispered, Mom. Victoria Brooks walked toward them. She didn't look afraid. She looked calm. almost amused. Daniel. He stared at her. What have you done? Victoria sighed. I tried to save you. You tried to kill me. I never wanted you dead. Then why did you order the shooting? Victoria looked at Frank. I didn't. Frank shook his head. She's lying. Victoria smiled. Frank has been lying for years. Emily stepped forward. You planned my wedding. Victoria looked at her. Yes. You wanted my trust. Yes. You used Daniel. Victoria's eyes hardened. I raised Daniel. That doesn't answer my question. Victoria stared at Emily. You think the world is divided into good people and bad people. Emily said nothing. Victoria continued. Your grandfather was a thief. My grandfather was a businessman. He stole from Margaret. Margaret stepped forward. And you helped him. Victoria looked at her. You should have stayed hidden. Margaret shook her head. I've been hidden long enough. Victoria's expression changed. You don't understand what you're doing. I understand exactly. Margaret looked at Nathan. I lost 20 years with my son because of people like you. Victoria looked at Nathan. He was safer without you. Nathan's voice was cold. You don't get to decide that anymore. Victoria's eyes narrowed. Then she looked at Emily. You still have time. For what? Walk away. Emily laughed. From what? From all of this. Victoria stepped closer. Forget the trust. Forget Daniel. Forget your grandfather. Forget everything. Emily stared at her. And you'll leave my family alone? Victoria smiled. Yes. Emily looked at her. No. Victoria's smile disappeared. I thought you'd say that. She raised her phone. A video appeared. Emily watched. It showed Robert in the basement. Before the shooting. He was talking to someone. Emily couldn't hear the conversation. Then the camera moved. Emily's eyes widened. The person standing beside her father was Daniel. But the video had been recorded 3 days before the wedding. Daniel stared at the screen. That isn't possible. Emily looked at him. What were you doing with my father? Daniel shook his head. I don't know. Victoria smiled. That's the problem with secrets. She looked at Daniel. Eventually, they stop belonging to you. Nathan stepped forward. Give me the phone. Victoria laughed. No. Then a police siren sounded in the distance. Victoria's expression changed. Margaret smiled. I called them. Victoria looked furious. You did what? Margaret held up her phone. The entire conversation was recorded. Frank stared at her. You recorded all of us? Yes. Victoria's face went pale. Emily suddenly realized what had happened. Margaret had been waiting 20 years for this moment. The sirens grew louder. Victoria turned to run. Nathan grabbed her. She struggled. Let me go. Nathan held her arms. You took my mother from me. Victoria stopped fighting. She looked directly into his eyes. I saved you. No. Nathan's voice broke. You stole my life. Police cars entered the cemetery. Officers surrounded them. Victoria was handcuffed. Frank surrendered. Sarah collapsed into Emily's arms. Emily held her. You should have told me. I know. I would have helped you, Sarah cried. I was scared. I know. Daniel stood several feet away. Emily looked at him. He looked broken. I never stopped loving you. Emily walked toward him. I know. But I hurt you. Yes. I don't expect you to forgive me. Emily looked at him. I don't know if I can. Daniel nodded. That's fair. Then Emily noticed something. The black envelope was still in her hand. The letter from her grandfather. She opened it. There was only one final message. Emily, if you are reading this, the people who wanted my legacy have finally exposed themselves. But remember something I learned too late. A family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by the people who choose to stand beside you when everything falls apart. Emily looked at Nathan, then at Margaret, then at Sarah. She understood. Her grandfather had left her more than money. He had left her a warning, and perhaps a second chance. But there was one thing she still didn't know. She turned toward Daniel. What was in that video? Daniel looked at her. I don't know. Emily frowned. You don't remember? No. Victoria suddenly shouted from the police car. Ask him about the night your father disappeared. Everyone froze. Emily looked at Daniel. What does she mean? Daniel's face went pale. He stopped. Emily stepped closer. Daniel? He looked terrified. I remember. What? He whispered. The night your father disappeared. He looked toward Robert's blood-stained shirt. I was there. Emily stared at Daniel. What do you mean you were there? Daniel couldn't look at her. I was there the night your father disappeared. Her heart sank. You were with my father? Yes. Why? Daniel swallowed. Because he asked me to meet him? When? The night before the wedding. Emily shook her head. My father never told me. He didn't want you to know. Why? Daniel looked toward Nathan. Because he knew someone was following him. Nathan stepped closer. Who? Daniel looked at Emily. Frank. Emily's eyes widened. But Frank was working for Richard. Daniel nodded. That's what I thought too. What actually happened? Daniel took a breath. Your father called me around midnight. The night before. Daniel remembered the night clearly. Robert had sounded terrified. Daniel, don't come to my house. Where should I meet you? The old Carter warehouse. Daniel had driven there alone. Robert was already waiting. He looked exhausted. Your father? Daniel asked. Not my father. Richard? Robert shook his head. Your mother. Daniel froze. Victoria? Yes. What did she do? Robert handed him a folder. She's been working with Richard for years. Daniel opened it. Bank transfers, property records, secret agreements, names, dates, and one document that made his stomach turn. A marriage trust agreement. Emily's name was at the top. Daniel stared at it. What is this? Robert said. They plan to take everything Emily inherited from her grandfather. How? Through you. Daniel's hand shook. They'll never get me to do that. Robert looked at him. You won't have a choice. What does that mean? Robert pointed toward another page. Your mother's people have enough evidence to frame you for financial fraud. Daniel stared. If you expose them, they'll send you to prison. Robert paused. And they'll make Emily believe you betrayed her. Daniel looked up. Then what do we do? Robert whispered. We disappear. Daniel stared at him. Together? No. Robert shook his head. You leave. Where? Anywhere. And Emily? Robert looked away. You can't tell her. Daniel's heart broke. You're asking me to destroy her. I'm asking you to save her. Daniel shook his head. There has to be another way. There isn't. Then the warehouse door opened. Frank walked in. Daniel immediately reached for his phone. Robert stopped him. Wait. Frank raised both hands. I'm not here to hurt you. Robert looked at him. Then why are you here? Frank placed a small recorder on the table. Because you need to hear this. He pressed play. Victoria's voice filled the warehouse. After the wedding, Daniel will sign everything. Richard answered. And if he refuses? Victoria said, then make it look like he abandoned her. Daniel's face went pale. Robert closed his eyes. Then another voice came through. A voice Daniel recognized immediately. His mother. He'll never suspect me. The recording ended. Daniel stared at Frank. My mother knew. Frank nodded. She planned everything. Daniel looked at Robert. Why didn't you tell Emily? Robert shook his head. Because she would have fought. She should fight. Against Richard? Yes. Against your mother? Yes. Against everyone? Daniel looked at him. Yes. Robert sighed. She would have gotten hurt. Daniel didn't answer. Because somewhere inside he knew Robert was right. But he also knew something else. Emily deserved the truth. The memory. Daniel looked at Emily. I didn't leave because I stopped loving you. Emily's eyes filled with tears. I know. I left because I thought I could protect you. You didn't. I know. And my father? Daniel looked down. I thought he was dead. Emily froze. What? The night of the wedding I came back to the warehouse. Why? To get the evidence. And? I found your father unconscious. Emily's face went pale. What happened? I called an ambulance. Did he survive? Yes. Then why did everyone say he disappeared? Daniel looked at her. Because Richard arrived before the ambulance. Emily's heart stopped. What did he do? He took your father. Where? I don't know. But you saw him? Yes. And you did nothing? Daniel's voice broke. I tried. He pulled up his sleeve. There was an old scar on his arm. Richard's men attacked me. Emily stared at it. I escaped. Why didn't you tell me? Because Richard threatened to kill your father if I contacted you. Emily closed her eyes. For the first time, she understood. Daniel hadn't simply walked away. He had been trapped. Robert wakes. A police officer rushed into the cemetery. Emily? She turned. Your father is awake. Emily's heart jumped. She ran. Nathan followed. Daniel stayed behind. Inside the ambulance, Robert was conscious. Emily grabbed his hand. Dad! Robert looked at her. You found the truth. Yes. His eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. Emily shook her head. Don't apologize. Why? Because you need to tell me everything. Robert nodded. I will. Where is my grandfather? Robert closed his eyes. Dead. Emily frowned. But we found proof he was alive after his supposed death. Robert shook his head. That photograph was taken before he died. The date says otherwise. Someone changed it. Who? Robert looked at Nathan. Margaret. Nathan froze. My mother? Robert nodded. She wanted to make Richard believe your grandfather was still alive. Why? To scare him. Emily frowned. Did it work? Robert smiled sadly. For a while. Then he looked at Nathan. Your mother didn't disappear because she was afraid of Richard. Nathan leaned closer. Then why? Robert whispered. She was building a case against him. Nathan's eyes widened. She spent 20 years collecting evidence. Yes. Where is it? Robert looked at Emily. In the one place Richard never searched. Where? Robert pointed toward the cemetery. Your grandfather's grave. Nathan stared. But we were just there. Robert shook his head. Not the grave. The mausoleum. The mausoleum. By sunrise, Emily, Nathan, Daniel, and Margaret stood inside the old Carter family mausoleum. Margaret walked toward the back wall. She touched a stone. Your grandfather built this himself. Emily looked around. Why? To hide what he was afraid of. Margaret pressed her hand against the stone. A hidden compartment opened. Inside was a metal box. Nathan stared. What is it? Margaret pulled it out. Everything. She opened the box. Inside were dozens of documents. Bank records, photographs, letters, audio tapes, and a handwritten journal. Emily picked up the journal. The first page contained her grandfather's handwriting. I betrayed Margaret. Emily swallowed. The next page revealed everything. Her grandfather had stolen the company from Margaret. Richard had discovered it. Instead of exposing him, Richard blackmailed him. Then Robert became involved. Victoria later joined them. For years, they moved money through shell companies. But Margaret had discovered everything. She disappeared to protect Nathan. And Daniel eventually discovered the same truth. Emily closed the journal. How did all of this continue for so long? Margaret answered, because everyone was afraid. Nathan looked at her. But you're not anymore. Margaret smiled through tears. No. She looked at her son. I'm not. One last secret. Emily opened the final envelope. Inside was a wedding photograph. Not her wedding. Her mother's wedding. Emily stared at it. My mother. Robert looked away. Emily noticed someone standing behind her parents. A young woman. Margaret. Beside her was Victoria. Emily's eyes widened. They knew each other before. Margaret nodded. They were friends. Friends? Yes. Then why did Victoria betray everyone? Margaret sighed. Because she wanted what your mother had. What? Your grandfather's trust. Emily looked confused. Why? Margaret stared at her. Because Victoria was your grandfather's daughter. Emily froze. What? Margaret nodded. Your mother and Victoria were sisters. Daniel stared at his mother. My mother was related to Emily's family? Yes. Daniel looked devastated. Then, Emily whispered. Our wedding? Margaret nodded. You and Daniel were related through marriage. Emily stepped backward. Wait. She looked at Daniel. If our families were connected? Margaret shook her head. Not by blood. Emily exhaled. Thank God. Margaret continued. But there is another reason Victoria wanted the marriage. What? She believed Daniel could inherit part of the Carter fortune through you. Daniel looked at his mother. She used me. Margaret nodded. She used everyone. Suddenly, police sirens sounded outside. A detective entered. We've arrested Richard Brooks. Emily's heart stopped. What about Victoria? The detective shook his head. She escaped. Nathan looked at Margaret. How? The detective hesitated. She had help. Emily's stomach dropped. Who? The detective looked at Daniel. Someone you know. Daniel's face went pale. Who? The detective handed him a photograph. Daniel looked at it. His eyes widened. No. Emily looked over his shoulder. The photograph showed Sarah opening the back door of the police station. Victoria was walking through. Emily stared. Sarah. Daniel shook his head. She wouldn't. The detective said, She did. Emily closed her eyes. The betrayal seemed endless. But then Sarah called. Emily answered. Sarah? Sarah was crying. I didn't help Victoria escape. Emily frowned. Then why were you in the station? Because I was trying to stop her. Where are you? Silence. Then Sarah whispered, I found something. What? A letter from your grandfather. Emily's heart raced. What does it say? Sarah began crying. It says the person behind everything isn't Richard. Emily froze. Then who? Sarah whispered. It's someone who has been controlling Richard for years. Emily looked at Nathan. Sarah continued. And Emily? What? Your grandfather says the person is still alive. Emily's heart pounded. Who? Sarah's voice broke. Your mother. The phone went silent. Emily slowly turned toward Margaret. Margaret was standing in the doorway. Her face was pale. She whispered, That's impossible. But everyone could see the fear in her eyes. Emily stared at Margaret. Your name? Margaret looked at her. Your mother. Emily's heart pounded. My mother? Margaret slowly shook her head. No, Sarah misunderstood the letter. Emily's phone was still connected. Sarah, what did you mean? Static. Then Sarah whispered, Emily, your grandfather didn't write your mother. He wrote the mother. Emily frowned. What does that mean? I don't know. The call suddenly ended. Emily looked at everyone. Nobody spoke. Then Margaret stepped forward. Give me the letter. Emily tightened her grip. Why? Because I know what your grandfather meant. Emily hesitated. Then she handed it over. Margaret read it. Her expression changed. No. Nathan stepped closer. What? Margaret's hands began trembling. This isn't about your mother. Then who? Margaret looked at Emily. Victoria. Daniel's face went pale. My mother? Margaret nodded. Your grandfather called her the mother, because she was the mother of his grandson. Daniel shook his head. But Sarah said, Sarah didn't know the whole story. Emily exhaled. For the first time in hours, the pieces seemed to fit. But another question remained. Why would Victoria control Richard? Margaret looked toward the cemetery entrance. Because Richard was never the mastermind. Nathan's eyes narrowed. Then who was? Margaret whispered. Your grandfather. Emily stared. But he's dead. Yes. Then how? Margaret opened the old journal. He planned everything before he died. She turned to the final pages. He created a system that would continue after his death. Emily frowned. A system? Money, companies, lawyers, trusts, secret accounts? Margaret pointed to a paragraph. Every person involved believed they were controlling the others. Nathan understood. But your grandfather was controlling all of them. Yes. Emily shook her head. Why? Margaret looked at her. Because he believed the Carter family should own everything. Emily's stomach tightened. And Victoria? Victoria was his daughter. Robert's sister. Yes. And Richard. Her partner. Emily looked at Daniel. Then Daniel was the next piece of the plan. The letter. Emily took the journal. There's something missing. What? The final page. Margaret looked at it. She was right. The last page had been torn out. Nathan looked around. Who would remove it? Margaret answered immediately. Victoria. Daniel shook his head. My mother wouldn't. Margaret looked at him. You still want to believe she is the woman you remember? Daniel lowered his eyes. She raised me. And she loved you. Margaret's voice softened. But she also used you. Daniel looked at Emily. I know. Emily touched his hand. Then let's finish this. Daniel looked at her. Together? Emily nodded. Together. It was the first time she had touched him since the wedding day. Daniel's eyes filled with tears. The missing page. Nathan searched the mausoleum. Nothing. Emily searched the journal. Nothing. Then she noticed something. The spine of the book was thicker than it should have been. She opened it carefully. A folded piece of paper was hidden inside. Found it. Everyone gathered around. Emily unfolded the page. The handwriting was unmistakably her grandfather's. If this page is ever found, it means Victoria has failed. Daniel stared. His mother had failed. The next sentence was worse. Richard believes he is my partner. He is not. Nathan whispered. He was using Richard. Emily continued reading. Victoria believes she controls Richard. She does not. Margaret looked stunned. Then who controls Victoria? Emily read the final paragraph. The only person I could never control was Emily. She stopped. Everyone looked at her. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Her grandfather had known. He had known she would eventually discover everything. The letter continued. She was the only person in this family who loved without asking what she would receive in return. Emily covered her mouth. That is why I leave everything to her. Not because she is my granddaughter. Because she is the only one I trust. There was one final line. If they come for the trust, don't fight for the money. Give it away. Emily stared at the words. Give it away? Margaret nodded slowly. Your grandfather knew money would destroy this family. Nathan looked at Emily. What will you do? Emily closed the journal. I think I finally know. The trust. The next morning, Emily walked into the office of her grandfather's attorney. His name was Samuel Hayes. He had represented the family for more than 30 years. When he saw Emily, his face changed. I was wondering when you'd come. Emily frowned. You knew? Samuel nodded. Your grandfather left instructions. What kind? To wait until you were ready. Emily placed the journal on his desk. I am. Samuel opened it. He read several pages. Then he looked at Emily. You understand what this means? Yes. You could inherit more than $60 million. I know. You would also control the remaining shares of Carter Construction. I know. You could destroy everyone who hurt you. Emily shook her head. That's not what I want. Samuel smiled. Then what do you want? Emily looked through the window. She could see the city below. For years, everyone in my family fought over money. She turned back. I don't want to become another one of them. Samuel nodded. What will you do? Create a foundation. For what? Families. She paused. People who lose everything because someone with money decided they didn't matter. Samuel smiled. Your grandfather would be proud. Emily looked at the journal. I hope so. Daniel's choice. Daniel was waiting outside. Emily walked toward him. How did it go? I gave away the trust. Daniel stared. All of it? Almost. What about the company? I kept enough to protect the employees. Daniel smiled. You really did it. I don't want to be rich because someone else suffered. Daniel looked at her. That's why I fell in love with you. Emily smiled sadly. You fell in love with me before all of this. Yes. And you still think I'm the same? Daniel nodded. No. Emily raised an eyebrow. I think you're stronger. She looked down. Daniel, I know. What? You don't owe me anything. Emily looked at him. I know. I hurt you. Yes. I don't expect you to forgive me immediately. I know. Daniel smiled. I just want one chance to prove I'm not the man who left you at the altar. Emily was silent. Then she said, You don't need to prove it with words. What should I do? Show up. Daniel nodded. Every day? Every day? He smiled. I can do that. The final confrontation. 3 weeks later, Richard Brooks was sentenced to federal prison for fraud, extortion, and conspiracy. Frank accepted a plea agreement and testified. Victoria was arrested at a private airport before she could leave the country. Sarah's brother's case was reopened. He was cleared of the charges, and Robert survived. But Emily still had one question. Why had Victoria arranged everything? The answer came during her trial. Victoria finally admitted the truth. She had spent her entire life believing she deserved the Carter fortune. She believed Emily had inherited a life that should have belonged to her. She had manipulated Richard. She had manipulated Daniel. She had manipulated Sarah. She had even manipulated her own son. But when the prosecutor asked why she had gone so far, Victoria gave an answer Emily would never forget. Because I believed money was the only thing that could make people stay. Emily understood. Victoria had spent her entire life terrified of being abandoned. So she tried to buy loyalty, control people, own people, until she destroyed every relationship she had. 1 year later, a small garden stood behind Carter Construction. Children ran through the grass. Families gathered around picnic tables. A new sign stood near the entrance. The Emily Carter Family Foundation. Emily stood beside Nathan. He had finally rebuilt his relationship with Margaret. It wasn't perfect. 20 lost years couldn't simply disappear. But they were making new memories. Daniel walked toward Emily. He held a small box. What is that? Something I should have given you a year ago. Emily smiled. You're not proposing again, are you? Daniel laughed. No. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver key. Emily frowned. What does it open? Nothing. She laughed. Then why give it to me? Daniel looked into her eyes. Because the first time I saw you on your wedding day, you were holding a key. Emily remembered. Her grandfather had given her a key before the ceremony. At the time, she thought it opened the old family house, but it had actually opened the archive room. Daniel continued. You were standing at the altar, waiting for someone to choose you. Emily's eyes filled with tears. I remember. I walked into that chapel thinking I could save you. He shook his head. But you didn't need saving. Emily smiled. You finally figured that out? Yes. He took her hand. You needed someone who would stand beside you. Emily looked at him. And now? Now I know the difference. He held out his hand. No pressure. Emily laughed. That's new. I've learned. She looked at his hand. Then she took it. The wedding. 6 months later, Emily walked down a different aisle. There were no reporters, no wealthy investors, no hidden contracts, no secret cameras, only family, friends, employees, children from the foundation, and Nathan and Margaret sitting together in the front row. Robert stood beside Emily, his eyes filled with tears. You ready? Emily smiled. For the first time. He kissed her forehead. You look beautiful. Thanks, Dad. Then the doors opened. Daniel stood at the other end. He wasn't smiling because he had won. He was smiling because Emily had chosen to walk toward him. She reached him. Daniel whispered, Are you sure? Emily smiled. I've never been more sure of anything. The minister began. But before the vows, Daniel stopped. He turned toward the guests. There is something I need to say. Emily looked at him. Daniel took a breath. A year ago, I made the biggest mistake of my life. The room became silent. I thought protecting someone meant making decisions for them. He looked at Emily. I was wrong. Emily's eyes filled with tears. Real love isn't control. He took her hand. It's trust. The minister smiled. Daniel continued. So today, I'm not asking Emily to promise me forever because I expect it. He smiled. I'm asking her because I want to spend every day earning the privilege of being beside her, Emily whispered. I do. Everyone laughed softly through their tears. Then Emily said her own vows. I spent a long time thinking. The worst thing that could happen to me was being left at the altar. She looked at Daniel. I was wrong. She glanced at her father. At the time, I thought my life had ended. Then she looked toward Nathan and Margaret. But sometimes the life you planned has to fall apart before you discover the life you were meant to build. She squeezed Daniel's hand. I don't promise that we'll never hurt each other. I promise we'll never stop telling each other the truth. Daniel smiled. I promise. The minister pronounced them husband and wife. Everyone stood. Applause filled the room. Emily laughed through her tears. And when Daniel kissed her, she realized something. The first wedding had been about money. The second was about choice. The first had been arranged by fear. The second had been built on trust. And the stranger who had once walked into a chapel saying, I'll marry her, was no longer a stranger. He was the man who had learned that love wasn't about rescuing someone. It was about standing beside them while they rescued themselves. Epilogue. Years later, Emily would sometimes tell the story to the children at her foundation. They always asked the same question. Were you sad when the groom left you? Emily would smile. Yes. Were you scared? Yes. Then why didn't you give up? She would look at Daniel, then at her children, and answer, because sometimes the worst day of your life is only the beginning of the best chapter. And whenever someone asked what happened to the man who left her at the altar, Emily never spoke with anger. She simply said, he taught me that love without trust isn't love at all. Then she would look at the family she had built. A husband who showed up, children who knew they were loved, parents who had learned to forgive, a foundation helping families start over, and a woman who had once stood alone at an altar, finally understanding that she had never really been abandoned. She had simply been redirected. The end.